Okay. All right. So we're going to continue talking about how to get exclusive listings. Yesterday, I walked you through the SEO strategy, and we used this one right here, the Knakal Land Index. And you can see this is on Digital Journal, and I walked through how the whole process works, right? Here's the link. It links over to here. We bring this over here. There's this link down at the bottom, and it links over here to the BKREA website. This is an awesome website to take a look at. We built this this whole strategy for Bob. And then there's another link right here, and it takes you over to the development site. So that's what we went over yesterday. So today, this is going to be really awesome. So I'm going to introduce you to the exclusive listing pitch kit. I'm going to show you the first part of the book. So let's take a look. All right. So this is the first part. Now, what this goes into a little bit of a little introduction to me. That's me and my wife, Tony, over in Italy on a trip to the Amalfi Coast. Pretty amazing. This right here is really awesome. This is taken from a LinkedIn post that Bob Knakal posted about how he started his business and how when he started his business from scratch, which he ended up selling years later for 100 million, he started out going after too big of a market. And that's what he explains here. And then what he did, he realized it was too big. So you see right here where it says, if you can see my cursor, he switched the whole thing around and said, you know what, I'm just going to focus on a market of 500 owners. And that is what worked. And so in this pitch kit, we talk about this whole program and how you build an exclusive listing business. So let me show you from invisible to in demand. Okay. And, this goes into my story. When I started, I was told right on my day one, when I went to Coldwell Banker, we're the largest and most successful real estate company in the world for one reason. We have a system. If you follow the system, you will succeed. If you deviate, cut corners, and decide you know a better way, you will fail. The problem was they never taught me the system. So what I ended up doing back then was, like, I was in New Jersey. I heard about Bob Knakal, who had been in the business for a few years, and somebody said, why don't you give him a call and go see him? And that's how I started working with Bob. And so, here's the story. I used to go in on Saturdays, and I would sit down with Bob, and we would go through how to cultivate markets, how to create newsletters. And we were really, we were content marketers back then. And, so here we are today with the proof stacking book. And, it tells my story. I went to work for Bob in New York City 9 months later. No experience, no deals, a no-name firm, no salary, straight commission. And I went ahead and I went into this business. You can probably relate, right? And it tells the whole story here about how I ended up getting this exclusive listing. I sold the property, and for $1,450,000, it was a residential, like 2-unit building. The first 3 floors needed to be gutted. The top 2 floors were a duplex apartment that was rent controlled. It was like $250 a month. It was insane. And the buyer ended up being this guy, Jelly Bean Benitez, who was he showed up in like jeans and purple high tops and a t-shirt and long hair. And he's like the same age as me. And I'm looking at this like, how does this guy have the money to do this, right? So he bought the building all cash, $1,450,000. And he had the money to renovate it too. So, pretty amazing. And so I told this. So what I ended up doing was I wrote the story. And I tell the story here about how I ended up writing the story and submitting it to the New York Times. I'm going to show you that in a second. Now, just to give you a little incentive here, and you understand, this is Bob, Jim Ventura, and me in New York having dinner recently, okay? And Jim Ventura started a year after I did, so it was Bob, me, and Jim Ventura, and Bob had a partner also. And so it was basically the small little group of us. And Jim Ventura today is a partner at NNN Pro, which is one of the largest triple net lease real estate companies in the country, all from this system. So this system that you're learning here, if you stick with it and you follow it, you will succeed. I guarantee, and amazing things will happen. But it's it's a very step-by-step system. So the way we write content, right? This is my wife Tony. We're putting together this jigsaw puzzle, and this is how we write content, right? We put pieces together. We don't sit down there and write. It takes too long to try and write. So the best thing, and this is how I wrote this New York Times article. I started out with just a white piece of paper. I wrote down what I wanted to talk about, not just so brokery stuff, but more about the history of the building and that kind of thing. So I had unknowingly sort of cracked the code here on content, and years later, it's the same strategy that works for at Google SEO. It's like this has made my entire career what I stumbled onto when I created these New York Times articles. And I had two that went live in the first year, which is really amazing. You can see how short they are. The New York Times didn't even change a word. I wrote these, I sent them to the New York Times. They published them on the front page of the New York Times. And I'm going to show you exactly how I did that. And you can replicate this, because this strategy, even though we came out of the streets of New York, this strategy applies anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the world. And we're working with brokers all over the world actually now to teach them the system. But pretty amazing. I mean, this was that first one I sold right here, little 5-story building. Here's another one. A year later was a school that I sold. Anyway, so this right here is basically the template, right? We started with a topic. We start with a theme, right? The theme is a musician buys a historic Gramercy Park property to restore it in line with the neighborhood's heritage. Location. We get into location. And, later in additional videos, we're going to show you how to use location and all kinds of location words. That location is the key to storytelling. And this is the one thing that nobody does. They overlook this. This is going to help you differentiate yourself from everybody else. Project and scope, what's happening here? Restoration, repositioning. Size and specifics, like the building was 11,192 square feet. That's more believable than 11,000, because what we're doing in the whole proof stacking model is we're just, I'm not a big cold caller. I don't like cold calling. I like to be able to use my proof to create relationships with people. And the more we can use little tiny things that you probably know every single day, but I've studied this for years. I've tested everything that we're going over here. And, it makes a big difference when you say the building was 11,192 square feet versus 11,000. 11,000, it just, was it really 11,000? Or are you just making that up? When you go 11,192, that's real. Numeric data is so important. That's what these algorithms today eat up. That's what the New York Times ate up when they published my articles. They never called me, never verified it, but they just kept publishing the articles because of this formula that you're learning right here. The characters, we have characters in every deal, right? Every deal has a character, right? You got a buyer, you got a seller, you get a tenant, even the neighborhood, who's in the neighborhood. Features to benefits, right? Features are facts, benefits are what the owner cares about. We always try and use a word like so that, right? So we market your property through tier 1 press releases so that we reach the widest buyer pool and drive the strongest price. Makes a difference. Use that word so that, because that's the benefit, right? The fact is we use press releases so that we get you the highest price, which is the benefit. Problem solution. We don't use problem solutions. We'll get into that later, but and then but anyway, this right here, now we're getting into this one right here. The next page is the proof stacker, right? And the doubter. Okay, you and you're a proof stacker. You want to get an exclusive listing, you've got to show the proof. The consumer, the people we're trying to convince to hire us, is the doubter. And they're looking at it and saying, well, what's so great about you? Why would I hire you? You all look like you do the same thing. Um, and I'm going to show you later in the pitch kit, how you can overcome every obstacle, every objection, and you get them. I mean, it's natural, right? Here's the doubter. This is really, really important to understand the mindset of the person we're trying to do business with, because when you know what they're already thinking, you can give them the answers to potential questions or concerns before they even voice them. And when you do that, you squash every objection before they even come up. And your competitors, they don't know this. They're just out there trying to say, look at how great I am. I can do better than everybody else. I've got a better database. I've got a better, my firm is better, blah, blah, blah. You know what? The sellers, they don't care. They just want to know what's in it for them. What are you going to do for me? Right. And so that's what this goes through. It goes through everything. That's what this whole exclusive listing pitch kit goes through. And then, what is the foundation before the mechanics? Here I sort of summarize everything. What is the foundation? Like understanding the foundation of how this program works, the consumer that we're trying to convince. Then once you understand that, then we start to get into the mechanics. How do the mechanics work? How do you implement the strategy on a day-to-day basis so that you can build like a franchise model for you? Like you can target a very specific market, whether it's 2 miles around where you're sitting right now, or you're going after a specific niche, like maybe you're selling, luxury, multi-million-dollar homes, or you're selling development sites, or you're selling apartment buildings or industrial properties or triple net lease deals. It doesn't matter what it is. That's what we focus on. We're all about the mechanics. We're not really coaching here. If you want coaching, there's plenty of coaches out there. Tom Ferry, Rod Santamassimo, plenty of others. We're teaching the mechanics that make coaching work. So this is really the starting point. So hopefully this is helpful to you. But we're going to get into this, and you're going to find that as you follow along with this, especially with the exclusive listing pitch kit and our school group, you're going to find how simple this is. There's nothing technical about this. Very simple to get your website cranking, your social media cranking, your videos, everything, and how to get the leads. What do you say when you get a lead? How do you overcome every obstacle? How do you give the presentation? And how do you repeat the model over and over and over so you dominate your market? So you're getting, 8, 10, 12, 15 deals every single year and maybe more. And you're built, and it just starts to get easier. People know who you are. You're not starting from scratch every day. This is a perpetual motion that we're building. You're building relationships with your market. You're becoming the obvious choice. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll see you in the next video. And in the next video, I'm going to get into a little bit more about the structure of content and how you can get the visibility on Google and how you get it on the AI sites like Perplexity, ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, to get that visibility. And we're just going to keep showing you, I'm going to bring you through every single step of the process. So by the way, the exclusive listing pitch kit, this thing here that, I've got it in a flip book here just to show you, but this is a physical workbook that you can keep on your desk, and you can thumb back and forth through it, and you can use it over and over and over. And you're going to find that you're going to become such an incredible marketer, and you're going to build a business. This is the problem. What we're doing is I'm trying to show overcome all the problems that brokers have that get into the business. They don't know what to do. They're trying, they don't know where to go, and they're not getting business. They see the opportunity, but they don't know how to get the business going. Or if you're a seasoned pro, how to get more and, tweak your systems. So anyway, Thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you in the next series.